Hey guys, welcome back to Mimir. Today's guest, Ashley Presti, never set out to build a company, but Blended Bond grew out of a problem she was actively living, blending two families under one roof. Unsurprisingly, her business succeeded for the same reasons her family did. She asked the hard questions, stayed intentional, leaned on the people around her, and let it happen on its own timeline instead of forcing it. The heart of this episode is twofold. One, how solving a real personal problem with honesty becomes the engine and the moat of a business. And two, how the founder's growth tends to mirror their growth as a person. For all my fellow founders listening, this episode is very worth your time. You'll hear how a single word changed how people treated and paid for her product. You'll get the unglamorous timeline, including the moment she said she was done and what pulled her back in. You'll get a great lesson in distribution, how she found her people in places most founders overlook, and her intentional product evolutions as the brand started to scale. But as I was listening back to the interview in preparation for making these show notes, the thread that kept pulling at me was about pacing. Ashley is proof that you can't rush timing, no matter how much we try, and you can't pour from an empty cup. And that being a solo founder doesn't mean carrying the whole thing by yourself. Ashley accomplished what so many aspiring entrepreneurs think is impossible. She started this business in her 40s, a full-time job, a blended family, all without letting it eat the life around her. If you've ever told yourself the good ideas are already taken, or that it's too late, or that you have to have it all figured out before you begin, you need to listen to this episode. Ashley, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you. Thank you for having me, Maddie.
I was thinking about this just like a few minutes ago, but I'm really curious. What did you want to be when you were little? Like, what was your dream job?
When I was little, I wanted to be a teacher.
Okay.
I initially started going to school even for math education, which if for anyone who knows me, they'd be like, math? Really? So I actually ended up through the mix of college and changing and taking breaks, I ended up graduating with art education. So
Okay.
I still kind of did it in a way.
And that's kind of what I was wondering, because I was wondering, like, what about teaching drew you to it?
I think I've always loved kids. Like even when I was a kid, I loved kids. And I think there's something about like molding and shaping the next generations. I think kids are so they're so smart. They have like such like sponges for brains and they're just soaking up everything where I think in some ways we can actually learn a lot more from them.
Mm-hmm.
So I think just as a kid I loved being that kid of just having that youthful mind, nation galore. And I just thought I always wanted to kind of like be in that realm with it. So, and I always said middle school specifically, which is crazy because I have middle schoolers now for kids and it's so hard.
Yeah, I can't imagine. I remember being in middle school and it was tough. It was very tough. So I feel for my parents now.
Yeah. I tell them a lot because it's like finally living it now. I actually tell the kids like, I understand like what you're going through and I forgot until like now that you're here. And so it's also reminding me like the actions that they do or the things that they say or the feelings that they're going through. I'm like, this makes sense. They are just right where they're supposed to be.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that's good to know too. Like, I think to empathize a little bit as a parent. And I think when you're that young and you hear your parents tell you, like, oh, I've been there, I remember that. I'm like, do you?
Yeah.
We're so old, but you do. Like, I vividly remember what that was like. And so I think it's hopefully they take that and appreciate that you can empathize with them.
Yeah, I think it's like just being honest with them and just being real. I think I always knew that as a parent, I wanted to remind my kids I'm still growing up too.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, yes, I have been in your shoes and maybe your world is different, but you're going through the same things just in a different font.
Yes. Yes. So then, how did you go from wanting to be a teacher to being a founder?
So I went from being a teacher, went into art education, did all my student teaching and everything. When I was graduating, the arts were getting cut a lot in our area.
Mhm.
So it didn't feel as promising. So I found different ways and like a different form of the arts. So I was helping with like finishing schools, kind of helping kids to be their best version or helping teens to be their best version. Through that, I then got into the fashion and retail industry, which is where I've landed more permanently in my life.
Nice.
But so I've been able to translate like my arts. I also have a graphic design degree. So all of that has worked in this like creative environment that I work full time in. Becoming a founder with Blended Bond, just it was funny because I still, even around my house, I would take my to-do list, I would make them cute. I would do like a really nice graphic. There's signs all up in the kitchen and I try to always make them nice. And that I would do work and stuff too, but that's just how I incorporated it into my home. But then when we were doing all these questions as a blended family, they first were just in my notes app. And then I was like, let me make them nice. Like, let me make them look like real cards. And that's where like I wasn't even thinking that I was going to do much with it. And then I just kept having people say like, this is really great. It helped your family. You made it look really nice. Like, why don't you try to do this as a product? And so I tried it. 2.5 years later, here it is as a product that is growing and selling and helping other families too.
I relate to that so much. I'm a Libra, and so I feel like I have always had a sort of like aesthetic way of living where it's not like a nice to have. To me, it's truly like that is how it has to be, or
Yeah,
I do not want to in life. But so I want you to give a little background too to the people. Tell them about how you started having these conversations as a family and like what it was for, what it meant, and why you were writing all these down.
Yeah, I think so. I grew up in a blended family, kind of have always been in them most of my life and in my like, personally as a child. And I think the one thing that I always wished was maybe a little bit different was that more questions were asked. I think as a kid, you're going through so much and your parents are making big changes and you're just kind of there, but also I didn't want to forget that like these our kids have feelings too. When I was a kid, I had feelings that I had going on and I kind of wish I was a little more prompted with stuff to talk about. I think it would have helped to go through the changes. So when I became older and having kids myself and having blended family myself, I realized here's where I can make that change, or here's the things I wished for as a child. Let me do something different. So when my fiance and I were coming together and moving in together, it was a very different living situation. Two girls entering a home of three boys. So there was just a lot of change and different than normal. So I started, I had the conversation with Patrick, like, I want to really be intentional with this. I want us to do really good with this. It's not going to be perfect, but we can at least do our best. And that included starting to have like these family meetings and sitting down and asking questions, understanding what the kids were going through, how we could help, especially for my daughter. Entering a home with three boys was a very big shock. So I was always very kind of direct and intentional with her, like, what can I do? What can we do to make you feel more comfortable? And vice versa with the boys for us as well. But I wanted to just like ask the questions,
Yeah.
whether they're uncomfortable or not. Because if I don't ask them, I'll never know. And if I do, maybe something good can come from it. And that's where those questions just started beginning to happen.
How much of that too do you think, like obviously your history and your own experience having been almost like in your daughter's shoes before, I'm sure like shaped a lot of the way that you were asking these questions, but what came out of this like initial experience that was like really surprising to you? Like what was something you're like, oh dang, like I didn't know?
Yeah, I think the most surprising was that the kids had sometimes, like some of the questions that I would ask, they were just small, even little tangible things that we could grasp onto as adults to help fix the situation.
Mm.
I'll never forget, and I talk about it a lot because I get asked like we do have a question that like truly changed kind of the trajectory of our family. And it was when I asked the kids, what is something that would make you feel more comfortable in this family? All inclusive of like this home, this environment, like what is something that you're missing? Because I kept feeling that the kids had a little bit of on edge and there was something just off and something wasn't vibing. And it was funny because both of their answers, or all three of their answers, my daughter just wanted a certain item that we had up at our old home. She wanted to see it in this home just because that meant home for her, which I was like, oh, we got that in the basement. Like, let's go.
Like easy.
And then the boys, which theirs always cracked me up, they missed their dad making chicken tacos. And it's funny because their dad doesn't really like to cook, but for what he did like to cook or did cook when it was just them was chicken tacos, frozen pizzas, like kind of frat house style. But and the boys were always so excited when I came into the house because I love to cook, I'm making them meals, they're having variety, and it was hilarious because 'cause I'm like, "Wait, you miss your dad's chicken tacos?" They're like, "Yeah, like, just maybe once a week or once every couple weeks." I was like, "Done, easy, we can fix that." And it told me too that that meant something for them. That was, like, one of those core memories of the little balls in the kids movie. Like, that is a core memory for them, it's just their dad cooking for them.
Yeah, and I think what's cool about those answers is obviously, like, it's very solvable from a
Mhm.
parental perspective, but I also think it's really fascinating what matters to them and what home means. It's not a physical place, which we say all the time, but to actually hear that reflected, especially from a younger age, I think is really fascinating. And it, like, really
Yeah.
makes you sit back and think about what's important in life.
Yeah, because I think sometimes, especially as parents and adults, we think we're overthinking so many of the situations because we're like, "Oh my gosh, they're probably stressed about this or they're stressed about that," which I'm sure we've dug into a lot more of those things too. But to know, like, off the surface, especially, and I'll never forget the time we were in, you can feel when energy is just tense. And I'm like, "Is this just not working? Is something not right?" And to hear it was just these, like, couple of things that are so fixable. Not to say those answers are always so easy because we have, like, more in-depth conversations too, but for something that was so heavy and I was nervous to ask the question, and then when we heard the answers, we're like, "That is important to you, like, we've been looking, like, way up here, and you guys are just literally, like, right here."
Yeah. So then when you realize that you had something here and that, like, there's an opportunity to help create this at a larger scale to help other families. And we talked a little bit off air about, like, the distribution channels that you wanted to use, and social media, obviously, I think is something that every founder is like, oh, well, start posting about it on social media. But I wanted to call attention to your experience with this because I think there's a really great learning lesson here. So will you dive into how you thought about, like, bringing this to market?
Yeah. I think when I was starting all this, because I never intended to make this product, I never intended to make
Mhm.
this, company, I never intended for that. It just started happening from our family. So then when it's starting to come to life and I'm like, "Oh, I'm actually, like, doing the things." It's kind of that same thing I just mentioned about, like, overthinking so much sometimes. Because I was like, "Oh, I gotta, start this and do this and start fresh," and all of these things where I was already having a kind of a channel with my co-parenting. I was doing some co-parenting coaching. So I had started that just to, like, have a separate channel for my personal, and I was building a community there. And in hindsight now I look back and I'm like, it would have been nice to kind of take that and merge it, carry it on, and, like, kind of get some of this still the same, like, followings, where in the middle of it I was so kind of fixated on having to do all the things that I went and started fresh, which was a huge learning lesson because starting fresh, especially in social media, is very hard, and kind of trying to regain all of that, like, the traction back, your following back, just the messages back. But at the same time, it was still, I learned a lot because I was able to readapt and I had already started it. So I was starting just fresh with the families I wanted to speak to, the parents I wanted to talk to. It was very more direct. But I still go back and I'm like, that would have saved me a lot of time and kind of energy.
And I think too would have been, like, a natural progression to say, like, oh, you have this coaching business and then, like, also now you're coming out with a tool.
Yeah.
But I I also think about this all the time with the podcast. I'm like, should I have just used my personal account? Should I use the podcast account? And then, like, how do you think about, like, cross promotion across the I'm one person,
Yeah.
you know, and I do both. It's, like, really hard to navigate and know when to separate versus when to leverage what you have existing and, like, just keep that. And I guess it's more like, how do you decide what is growth versus what is truly, like, a totally different path?
Yes. Yeah, for sure. And I think it's all learning lessons too. Like I think even for you as well, we weren't like intending to forcefully do something until it starts to come to life. And then you're like, "Oh," it would be different if like I sat down and was like, you know what, I'm gonna make a product today. But that's not how some of these things, come up. So it's growing lessons and learnings. But I think with the challenge of starting back over taught me a lot too. It actually pushed me a little bit more as well.
Mm.
I'll never forget, like, that would have saved, but I've learned, I'm growing, I'm still figuring it out, I don't have it all down, I'm one person trying to do all the things, so I'm always like, "Is there a team for hire?" But, like, I'm still new, so not, like, crazy amount.
You're like, I'm poor, but I would
Yeah.
love help.
If you put all your money into something, especially like a product, I've used a lot of it's just all of my own, savings and all of that because I started to have to believe in myself and try something. So that is, I'm like, I need help, but like, I'm like on a budget.
Any interns that want to do
Yeah.
summer? What I really loving about hearing you talk about all this is like the genuine, earnest approach that you take in this and like how that's led you to this place and this product and how you feel about it. I think there's something really important about that because I think a lot of founders come to this journey through solving personal problems. And I really believe that founders that have passion for the project, been on like the customers and like been in the customer's shoes and understand their pain, I think really helps to create a successful product. I think what's interesting too is like this moment where you have something that you're trying to create and then you're sort of like, okay, I think that there's a business around that. And like then you sort of switch mentalities where you're no longer seeing it as like a personal project and then now it's becoming like a business. And off air we talked about the difference between calling it a tool, not just like a card game, and what that has done for your business. And I think that's part of this whole coming to terms with shifting it from a passion project to a business that a lot of founders think about. And like, I think something as simple as the words that we use and how we get that out into market can make such a difference. And so I'd love you to walk them through like that mindset and why you call it that, and then how that impacted your business.
Yeah, you make so many good points there because it is like when I started, it was truly just something we were doing. And then when I first started thinking, like, oh, this will become something, game came to mind because I'm just thinking of cards and I'm using like this general verbiage. And then I started to have these second thoughts because even like my family would ask, like, oh, let's play. And I was like, oh, but it's not, I said game, but I don't mean game. It's more in depth than that. And I think I didn't want it to feel so like optional. A game is like when you have time or like when you're going to hang out or whatever. Where I wanted this to be, no, this is actually a tool we do use and we still use to this day. I think we have one on our dining room table where no, it's like it's something that is helping us, where I think that's where it made the switch that we can all play a game, but this is meant to help families. This is meant to help, parents communicating with their kids about, the deep stuff, the hard stuff. So as much as there's still a lot of, fun, I have some, interactive fun activities in it. It's still meant to grow and help as a resource versus, hey, let's play a game. But I think some of the good visual or that it is still prompted as cards, the game part is almost the view for the kids because it shouldn't feel so heavy and forced. So tool, which the parents would be, purchasing this or the adults would be, is more to guide for them. But I think they can word it, I have these cards for us to, ask about, which takes some pressure off the kids to feel like it's therapeutic when it is therapeutic, but they don't have to realize that yet.
Yeah. Yeah. And then how did that, so like, then what did your distribution channel look like from there? Like, were you just doing everything from your website or did you have any partnerships that you were working with from like a retail perspective?
Yeah, so I started first just initially word of mouth, but I was getting the page up and going. Then I strictly kind of used Shopify for that. However, at the same time, locally, when I started, I was kicking off with a couple local places that would sell it in the stores, kids focused or family focused places. And then now it's been growing into more therapeutic offices, mental health professionals, the city. I'm working with the city to work on like guidance counseling and social work offices where it's growing even past just the smaller retail. It's hard because it's a very niche product, but then that's where I think having it online has been really helpful because it's not only can I tap into people locally, but I can tap into kind of all around the world. Because I truly started with a physical deck, like truly a card deck. And then I was starting to have a lot of customers that were overseas. And I was like, wait, like, first of all, again, budget as a solo person shipping. Then I transitioned into making digital download versions so that I can be reached everywhere. And that also made it a good option for me because I had a lot of expansion packs that I wanted to branch off from these. And that was another learning that not everything needed to start off always physical. Granted, the deck is really nice, especially for families and having it at dinner because we try to we do like a screen-free dinner and stuff at night. But then also I have to remember, it's 2026. Everyone has their phone with them and maybe it's convenience. So making them digitally acceptable too is really helpful for me.
Was there okay, as a solo founder, first time founder, how was the experience on a personal level? What were you feeling throughout all of this? Did you ever reach a boiling point where you're like, holy shit, this might be too much for me?
Yes. When I started, it was great because it's like, oh yeah. And like I said, I have a background in graphic design. So the design, doing all that, that came natural to me. I was like, got this. And I'm also very OCD when it comes to graphics. So I was like, I kept redoing and fixing and redoing and fixing. The hard part came when I was looking into distribution and getting it printed. I went through so many samples and which also translates to a lot of money. Finding the right, I'm big on quality. So I was very specific on how they felt, that they're that nice, smooth. I didn't want it like a playing card. I wanted them very intentional and soft because the moments should be, intentional and soft. And I didn't want it to come off, either cheap either. So that was the part when I just was hitting a wall because I wasn't really finding the right match. And because I wanted it to at least be in a really, I know everything can evolve over time, but I wanted it to be good out the gate because I think it says a lot to have it at least really great to start. So I definitely hit a crash. It was a year in, so it took me about 2 years total to get it up, going, shipped, all of that, and live. A year in was when I just wanted to call it quits. Not only was I reaching the wall with finding the right distributor to have for the product and the right quality and all of that, there was a lot of things it had to still make sense and not break the bank at the same time. At that same time, I also still have, a full-time job. I have a lot of life. We have a blended family, so we have 3 teenagers. We were going through a move. Patrick had a really bad spinal injury. We just had so much going on where I was like, why am I trying to do some random project right now when life is lifing right now? And I think I definitely took a break for a couple months. I didn't think I was really going to go back to it. I kind of just chopped it up to there was another project I tried and just didn't. And I'll never forget, I was actually sitting at the table in that room. We had just moved into our home. One of my best friends was in town. Her and Patrick sat down with me at the table because she was asking how it was going. And I was like, oh girl, I'm done. And I think Patrick overheard me and came and sat down and they were both like, quiet, this is fantastic. And I had the samples were at the table. And I remember I started to cry because I'm like, I was really excited, but I just don't think it's my time to do this right now. And both of them were like, what do you need? What do you need to push this forward? You've already come so far, don't stop here, which was really great to hear, from my partner, from a best friend. Because you kind of sometimes need that, kick in the ass too, to no, you got this, and use your village. What do you need? How can we help? And it truly was I needed to carve out some more time. So I needed a little less, maybe, responsibility of the daily stuff. So that's where Patrick jumped in. He's like, how many, do you need a certain amount of hours a week or a certain day that we can block out for you? So we did that. My girlfriend just was kind of there as support. She's like, you got this. You've been doing so much. What can I do as a friend? And we just started talking through the things that I didn't really have a grasp on yet. social media, trying to connect with, family content creators, just like all these things. I'm like, I just feel like there's so much. And she's like, how can I help? And so she was helping and sending information for me too. So that's where it kicked back up. Like after a couple months, and truly in like 2 weeks after that conversation, I had the samples ordered. I actually recorded a whole video because I was in tears, like pushing, like, yes. Like now it's live, now it's happening. But I needed that. I think I also needed the reality check that, I needed to find out how to, put off some of all the mom duties and kind of take things off my plate, which has always been something I had to work on too.
I think this is so relatable. I am currently like talking to formulators for my brand for the first time and going over the steps about how you actually get a business off the ground and the capital required to do so. And it's terrifying because it's like a large sum of money that I don't think I've ever seen in one place at one time. It's terrifying, but also like really exhilarating. And I think for sure, if I did not have my fiance in my corner who was in lockstep with me throughout this whole thing, like every time I would come to him with an update or something, and I'd be like, I don't know how to do any of this, or like, I don't know which way to take. And he was always right there to help answer questions or be like, yep, we'll figure it out. Like, don't worry about it. We got this. And I think it's so important to talk to people about what you're doing because it is a lot of responsibility bearing down on us as the founders. And while that's great from a growth perspective, I think it can also hinder a lot of people and it can get really overwhelming really quickly. Something as simple as just like sitting down and sort of brain dumping all of the things that are weighing on you, just as somebody who's like a trusted person in your life can help alleviate like the stress and the weight of it all, but then also they help get you from spiral to like next actionable steps. And then like, I think in your case specifically, like it just, that's all it takes. And then it's like, boom, 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 boom. You can just knock all those things out of the way. And then that's what gets you like running to the next phase. And I think it's such an important learning lesson because I think, it only gets more and more, like the challenges are different, but often more complicated. And so it's like I love anime, so this is like a really weird thing, but like every time you beat the boss of that season or of that episode who you thought was like one of your hardest battles yet, like it's always preparing you for what is to come to be like the hardest battle ever, so every time the character is like going through it and they like almost don't win, but then they do. And then the next one is even harder than the one before. And then like 5 seasons later, you're like, dang, that guy was at the beginning of the season was like so easy to manage. And I think the founder experience is very similar to that. And like,
and it takes, I think it's also, you're doing something of like, you're taking a chance on yourself, which we don't all always do because we're all sometimes afraid to do that. And I think as much as you're even building something on your own, you also still need people too. And I think that's always important that yes, we can, we can do and power through, but also you still need your behind the scenes help or just that supportive person in your life just to keep you on track. And I think it's good, like that conversation I had with them. Granted, I've heard it from, family and friends and stuff too, that it was a great idea. I think it was having those two people that were like, no, this is actually like a really good idea. Like, no, we're not just like giving you fluff. Like, no, you should do this.
My dad was that person for me when I called and told him that I was going to do that. I wasn't even looking for validation from him. Like I was just like, this is happening in my life and like just truly updating him from like a life perspective. And he was like, oh yeah, that's a great idea. And I was like, what? You really? And I told my brother that because I was like, you'll never guess. And he was like, yeah, of course he said that. It's a good idea. And I was like, you too?
We're questioning so much. Or I think too, like at this time, 2026, there's almost everything out there. So it's like, I have something, but it's different. And I do still think there's a place for it, even though, the world is full of ideas and stuff now, which is so beautiful. And that's the great part of it all. But it can be discouraging too, because it's like, well, they'll get it. Someone else will do it. Or
that's honestly what kept me stuck for such a long time. Like I never allowed myself the freedom to dream weirdly, which like I would never say about myself, but I guess that's kind of what happened, where I just felt like everything good had already been done. And so I was like, why would I even bother? But when I started to really confront this stuff, I just realized that underlying was like fear of failure and like fear of starting too in general, just like fear. It was a fear-based mindset. And then once you sort of realize that was where that was coming from, it's much easier then to release yourself from that and see possibility instead, and then like really start to do the domino effect of like what's next and how do you build your dreams truly.
Oh, yes. I believe that a lot because I think I'm such a, like I said, I'm OCD with like my design and stuff, but also I don't like to, I never want to jinx myself. I'm very weird about that. I'm like, if it's too, like, if it's good or if it's like, not good enough or whatever that is, like, I always feel like I'm going to jinx myself once I say it. But that's also my extra push when I'm getting ready to do something kind of big or big for me. The second I say it out loud to someone, kind of puts it into action for myself because I'll
Totally.
think in my head for like months or years on something and then I'll finally go, "Hey, Patrick, I'm going to do this." And to me, that's like go mode where now I said it, I'm going to follow through. So I think that also gets scary because when this didn't start that way. It just kind of kept snowballing. So then I had to do that and that was the pushing, like creating the first like Instagram post of it and then purchasing my first shipment of all the decks was my two moments of this is go time. Like now we don't turn back.
You're right. It is one thing to say to people like, I'm doing this now and this is a business. And yeah, I think that's an important first step to take. And, literally read about this on my Substack the other day because I was like, all right, I'm telling you guys that this is happening. Half because like I want to talk about it for myself, but I'm also like, I need to tell everybody that I know that I'm doing this because they're going to ask about it the next time they see me and I need to be ready to answer those questions.
Accountability.
Exactly. It is the added accountability without a doubt.
Yeah. It's hard because it's scary, but I like a push. I
Yeah.
need sometimes like someone just be like, "You got this."
Yes. And I think like there's a personality type, I think, for founders at the end of
Yeah.
the day. Like even the ones of us who didn't mean to take this path, I think that there is something about the entrepreneurial spirit that lives within us that we cannot kick. And I think it does lend itself to a certain type of personality where you want to be pushed, you want challenge, you don't like easy is boring to
Yeah.
us.
And I think just my brain, if like having that arts background and creative background, I'm literally always thinking about something to do, something to make, something to design. Can I redo our Wi-Fi password sign or something? Like even or like, I'll write a book. Like I do all these like random ideas. But that's a beautiful part of it too, is like my brain is always on. But I'm very particular of the ones I actually like I'll brain dump them all. What can I actually start and work on? What is just
Yes.
like a nice thought, Ashley?
Yes. I think the like difference between what is just like a weekend project versus what is a long-term like potential
Yeah.
business idea, totally
Yeah.
different. And like
Yeah.
both are valuable, but it's just you have to recognize the difference between the two because the energy and stuff required for those is like a totally different mindset.
Oh, yeah, because once you start on something, you gotta give 100% of your 50% or 100% of your 100%. But like, you gotta if you wanna do it, you gotta go.
What do you think this journey has taught you about yourself?
That it's funny because I think of, like, my mom maybe at my age, and I used to think 40s was so old, and it feels like you're in your life, you just go into a routine, you're there, and I think something that was really important for me or that I've taken away from this all because it's all been therapeutic and such a journey, realizing that life never actually has to stop, or you never actually have to just be, there. Like, you can still strive for new things at any age. I didn't think I'd have 3 teenagers at, 41. Didn't think I'd have, this blended family. I didn't think I'd, all these things, let alone I did not think at all that I was going to start a product and start a business and start selling it, in my 40s. And here I am. I try so hard. I've told myself for years, like, Ashley, settle down. Like, let's just chill. Like, you always take on like a little extra stuff. And was getting in a really good vibe of just like, I got my job, I'm good, I come home, I clock out, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, oh, now I just started a whole new business. So I work like 12-hour days or something like that. Like all late nights, weekend warrior. Like now I've just rebuilt my time right back up. But it feels good for me because I think I'm getting something out that I needed. I always have to be dabbling in something creatively. That's just how my brain is. If I don't have anything going on, I feel bored and not like providing back to the world in some way. We have one life and I want to do it to its fullest. I want to do the best that I can in my little like chunk and like slice of the pie of the world. I want to try it.
Yeah, I agree. And I feel the same way. Like I have always done extra. And it's not, I think at the beginning of life, when you're in school and stuff, you do extra because it's good for your college application.
Yep.
And then once you're in college, if that's the route that you choose, like anything extra is truly extra. And so many times I would do stuff and my parents would be like, you really don't have to do that. But it always came from a place of like, no, it's fun.
Yeah,
And
I want to.
I want to actually. And I think, again, this lends itself to like the founder personality. Like we just truly can't help ourselves. And even when I got my first 9-to-5 job, right after I'd started the podcast, I got the job specifically because I said I didn't want anything mentally challenging. Like I wanted to focus on the podcast. I truly wanted a job where I could just clock in and clock out. And then because I can't help myself, I start helping more in other departments and all this stuff. And then suddenly I get promoted to a totally different role. And like, it's an actual full-time job now. And then here I am like 2 years later, and now I'm starting a business that is going to require a lot of time, but I wouldn't have it any other way at the end of the day. Like, even though it is a lot, I just wouldn't choose any. I literally wouldn't do it any other way.
Yeah. When you said the way your parents say, like, you're always doing extra, the way my mom calls all the time and is like, can you take breaks? Like, why are you taking on so what are you doing now? Are you getting sleep? Like, you're doing a lot more. And every time I'm like, yes, I'm busy, but I like it and I need it. And that's where I thrive. But also, it teaches me especially this year specifically, I've been very intentional about building breaks and balance with, I don't want to overload myself too much, which is hard to say when you got to still like do all the things. But I even had one of the content creators that I chat with a lot for a blended bond. She also even reminded me too. She's like, don't worry, like if there's a day you miss posting, it's okay. Like if there's this, like if you can't make content like that day, it's okay. If you decide not to do some outreach or whatever, that's okay. Which is such a good reminder, especially because you go in go mode and realizing that at the end of the day, I'm still doing a really fun, beautiful passion project. I do still have my family, I have my job, I have myself. That I can't take all those things yet either. We always say you can't pour from an empty cup. So I need to stay rejuvenated, refreshed, take some time if I need. Like I think even last weekend, normally I try to do all of my things, especially for social media, like on a Saturday and get them ready for the next week. The last weekend I took a break and I just didn't. And it was fine. I was figuring things out here and there, like throughout the week, but it doesn't kill anything and like nothing's going to die. But I can hurt myself if I don't take that break.
I really believe in timing. I think everything happens in its own time. And as much as we try to be efficient, you can't rush timing. And I think in business, sometimes when I talk to founders from all stages, there are clear moments all on a timeline where something changed for their business. And I think those moments, while executed through tasks or projects, I think still in a timeline happen because it was the right time. And so as much as I think we try to convince ourselves like we need to do all of these things so we can get to the next place, I do think that there is still an element that's out of our control. And so I think it's a little bit easier sometimes to remember to have balance, to take rest and like work when your mind is ready for it and you can push during push times, and then also recognize when you need rest and like to rest in those times. Because I think all of it at the end of the day is preparing us for these like moments in time that will get us to the next phase of things, but that I can't control. So it doesn't matter anyway, like if I push past my limits in a way that I shouldn't have, like that's not going to get me to that point any faster or better. I think sometimes things just happen in their own time and you kind of have to let go and just do your best.
Yeah, I agree with that so much and trying to adapt it way more in the last handful of months. Even last night, I had a quiet house. Patrick went fishing for the weekend and the kids were all asleep, which normally I'm like, all right, gonna like do all the things. And it was funny, I like started and I was like, I want to watch a movie. Like I actually like the house is quiet and I don't always get that. Like laptop down. And I did, and for a little bit, like the first 10 minutes, I was like, "My shirt, my shirt," like still looking at the laptop, like looking back at me. And I was like, "No, this is good. Like this was nice." I laid, I watched a movie, woke up, crammed some things out in the morning. It was fine.
Yeah. Okay. Before we wrap up, I can't let you go without knowing what is in your founder stack, which is 7 rapid fire questions about your journey thus far that I always do at the end of every episode. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Okay. First question. What tool do you live and die by?
Oh, Canva.
I love
It's a
Canva. Would not be
lifesaver now. And like I
you.
feel like years back I used to do like the free one and I was like, what is this? I'm like, let me have this subscription. Oh hell yeah.
It's amazing. I love Canva. I use it all the time. Do you also use like Photoshop and stuff, or are you fully like Canva now?
I used to still do a lot of Photoshop and Illustrator and all of that InDesign because that's how I grew up. Like that was through college and then I graduated. And then now that Canva came out, I'm like, I mean, there's occasions where I need to go back for something, but it's so rare now where I'm like, it's kind of like less is more for me at this point.
Yep. Okay, next question. What is the best money you've spent on your business under $5,000?
I'd say it's upcoming. Is that okay? So I connected with a woman who's focusing on like imaging and branding for women-owned businesses. And so she's going to be doing my like founding story. And it was hard. Like I've been spending money on things for the product or, my like marketing stuff or shipping and all of that. I've been spending money there. And finally, I feel like I'm spending money on something that one tells my story in a really like beautiful way. That I can keep and use and people can see it like through the website and everything. But also it was so special, like focusing on women-owned brands and, wanting to help families. She's also a single mom, like where there's this like really beautiful tie-in where I'm like, I think this is going to be really long living for me and really special just even for any kind of customer coming and seeing like, oh, like she was a mom too, like in this and just needed help. So I think I'm really excited for that and took a chance and just, put a little money into myself.
Hey, can't wait to see that. That sounds amazing.
Yeah, I'm excited. I'm excited. It'll be like end of May, I think.
Okay, yeah, you'll have to send it my way because I want to see it.
Yeah.
Okay, what is a book or resource that influenced your entrepreneurial experience?
Can it be a person?
That can be a resource.
It is my younger cousin, which will sound hilarious. He's like, I think 15 years younger than me, maybe 10 years younger than me. So my cousin was such an entrepreneur, always starting businesses. And he grew up, in that like next generation of just really smart online and all of this stuff. And it was funny, we were at a Christmas and I was just like kind of telling him like about what I was doing. Because I still feel like very dinosaur compared to him and what he's been in and everything. He's like, drop ship this and this and that. And I'm like, what?
Yeah.
First, he guided through so much along the way for all of this with like that background of how to ship and sell and all of that. He like obviously like I had this product and this emotional tie to it. He had all like this logistical information for me, what to work with, Amazon versus this or all this stuff. So it was so much information, which I never would have thought I would get from my younger cousin. And then I think he also he really did some great encouragement along the way because he reminded me how my product was different from things he was doing. He would jump on and, like sell trending viral things. Great for, young guy doing his thing. He's like, you have such a family and passionate and emotional based product. He's like, first of all, if you have accidents or it's not perfect. He's like, it's more forgiving because it's about family and it's real. He's like, so you don't have to give yourself so much pressure to make it so perfect. Which really was something I needed to hear at the time because I kept thinking like product, product, product. And he's like, no, you have an emotional thing. He's like, just do what you're doing and people will come.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's
So
so.
he was a really great resource for me. And I don't even know if I fully told him all that yet. So he'll hear it now.
Maybe, yeah, text him after this.
Yeah.
Okay. What's one belief or assumption you had when you started that is now completely reversed?
Sometimes I think when you kick something off and you feel like you have a lot of like connections or people that were saying like, I'll do this or I'll do that. And then it doesn't always come through. Or like when it does come to light, they don't come through. That was a hard but very good lesson to learn that I thought there was a lot of other connections that I've had just from other areas of life and stuff that felt this was going to be really good meshes along the way. And when things came out, they weren't, or like they weren't on the same page of like wanting to be a part of it the same anymore, which was like, kind of hard in the beginning because you feel like you have like, oh, I've got this route, this route, this route, I have connections here, which only taught me how to work even harder on my own and for myself too. Not always like as much as I need people in my corner. I didn't always want to rely on just people to help. So it taught me I'm not a big salesperson at all. Like I could never sell like anything, like a car or whatever. Like, I'm like, oh, you don't like it? Okay, that's fine.
Totally
um,
understand.
but it's forcing me, to use that and exercise that muscle of just not even selling and salesy, but just promoting myself. Because I'm very much like I never want to like overstep. I don't want to force anyone into anything. I want it to feel natural. But there is a little bit of like I had to learn how to, be proud and speak up and do outreach and really believe in my product myself and know that no, I believe it's a really great thing and this is why. So it was like relying less on maybe so many people to do it like that for me just because I was scared to pitch more and then just learn how to do it myself.
Yeah. I think that's a great advice too. Okay, next question. No matter how crazy your day gets, what's the one thing you look forward to that you aren't willing to sacrifice?
Dinner time with my family. I don't always feel it's so common anymore for kids to eat at the table together because there's so many sports and everything, which I would say 4 to 5 nights out of the whole week, we will sit down and eat together, and I think that's important. Like, we try to all whatever we need to stop. I don't, like, plan things over that time. I try to make sure we're all together. There's a couple nights we have late practices, so that goes, but time with my family and honestly, I think date nights with my fiancé. We were both in the thick of, like, work, home, kids things, like, all this stuff, and about, maybe 6 or 7 months ago, we both made an intentional like, no, we have to take breaks. We have to find a night out or a lunch together or a brunch. So trying to carve that out and know that our work and our businesses will be fine, but we need to prioritize. So my family and my partner is two things that I don't want to negate.
Yeah, and that's what's there even when anything else is not there. When jobs are not there, when it's not there, through all of the change in life, like they are there. So I'm totally on the same page as you.
Yeah.
Okay, last two. What brand in or outside of your industry is inspiring you right now?
I was very inspired by it's called This and it was communication cards, more for relationships, in depth and intimacy. But I bought those years and years back. I loved them for dating. I loved them for, in relationships. And that's where I was really inspired because it was asking the uncomfortable questions. And that's where I felt like something for blended families and co-parenting, this more niche of where a lot of families are going, these modern version of families, we're needing the same thing. So I was really inspired by this and wanted to, I wanted to do something for this area of families that is not there yet.
Nice. Okay, last question. What is a song or album you have on repeat right now?
I mean, I always have Beyonce's Cowboy Carter on because I love that album. But I just went and saw Devil Wears Prada 2, and the last song, Runway by Lady Gaga and Dolce. I'm like, it gets me excited. I play it in the morning, and I'm like, I love this. It just gets me. I love a good song that like hypes you up. I can't stop moving to it.
I have to go see Devil Wears Prada. I hear really good things.
It was
I'm excited.
good. Yeah, it was good.
I'm excited. Well, Ashley, thank you so much for coming on the podcast. I loved having you here and getting to know you.
Yes, you as well. Thank you so much. I love that you're doing this and highlighting people and how they do this, how they grow something from the ground up.
That's a wrap on today's episode. Thank you so much for listening. You can find all the links to connect with Ashley in the show notes. If you feel called to support this podcast, please leave a review or comment below. If you're looking to contribute, I would be deeply honored if you wanted to buy me matcha this week. The link is also below. And if you enjoyed this episode and are looking for more before the next one, dive into the well on Substack. There you'll find more founder wisdom and essays on entrepreneurship. See you guys next week.